Welcome back to segment 2 of 3 in the Keystone. We have another special guest on with us today from the Arrowhead Chief Podcast, Cris Style. Cris, thank you for joining us. And for those of you guys who are, fans of Cris and have skipped ahead to this section, I'm Adam Seltzer. I have Chris Guest with me and Al Ryan. We are from the 3 in the Keystone Podcast based out of Philadelphia. And we wanted to bring Cris on so we could further dissect the game, but specifically we're going to jump into some prop bets. For all you guys, I know a lot of you guys looking for some action on Sunday, most heavily bet day of the year. So we're going to give you some of our picks, but I'd be remiss if I didn't at least throw it to Cris first and say, Cris, from the Kansas City side, why don't you give us your thoughts on the game on Sunday?
Well, first of all, thank you guys for letting me come on y'all show, talk, football, man. I'm always appreciative to come on anybody's show. So thanks for the invite. But from our perspective, it all starts with the trenches, man. Your defensive line against our offensive line and our defensive line against your offensive line. That's where it's all going to end and start and end. Whoever wins that war will win the game ultimately. If Patrick Mahomes is clean in the pocket and he's able to get down the field, then, we have a pretty good chance to win that game. If Chris Jones and Frank Clark can get to Jalen Hurts, at least may not sack him, but maybe we can affect his throws a little bit. We'll have a good chance of winning the game. But on the flip side of that, if you guys can come in and, you guys, Hassan Reddick is giving Mahomes problems and affecting his throws, you guys have a good chance to win that game. And if your offensive line is keeping Jalen Hurts clean and you guys are able to run the football on us, then you guys are going to have a good chance to win the game. So it all comes down to the trenches. It also comes down to the chess match between Andy Reid, Spags, Nick Sirianni, and Jonathan Gannon. That's going to be the interesting matchup because you're talking about two of the elder statesmen and Andy Reid and Spags, who's had, immense experience against Nick Sirianni and Jonathan Gannon, who are, young coaches. This is their first time in the Super Bowl, and this is a big moment. This is a big spot for them. And if they can get this win over, Andy Reid, then that's going to propel Nick Sirianni to the conversations of the Sean McVays, some of the younger coaches, the Kyle Shanahans, those guys. So, yeah, the chess match between those coaches are going to be very interesting, So
all really good points, and we're very familiar with Andy Reid, and haven't been here for so long, and he's one of those guys that even though he's been gone for a while, definitely gets a lot of respect. I'm on our end. So before we jump into the props, I'll just ask you for a prediction on your end.
I'm looking for a close game, but I'm gonna go with a score of 35-31 Chiefs.
Wow, high scoring game.
That'll be a hell of a game.
Yeah, 35-31 Chiefs.
Yeah.
Didn't expect anything else from the Kansas City guy.
Right. I'll tell you what, if that's the score, then that battle of the trenches was won by the O lines.
Yeah. Most definitely.
I'm glad that you said that first, Cris, about the trenches. I agree 100% with that. Yeah. And it's funny because Adam had just said it too. Even though Andy has been gone from Philly for several years now, he still has this team still has his prototype and his nucleus that he's built, as far as not nucleus, but what he looks for in a team and organization. Like Howie Roseman has instilled that in this team since then, and Jeffrey Lurie, the owners, made sure that there's folks that have come after him that still have that similar kind of model. And the Eagles every year consistently try to build from the inside out. So they try to build from the O-line and the D-line still, even after Andy's long gone. Mm-hmm. And this year, I think they finally, on both sides of that line, got it right. Between drafting and, Howie Roseman has had a lot of flack from the fan base as far as how he drafts and things like that over the years. But I think finally, with everything being said, I think that they finally got it right this year. Now, if they'll be able to keep it long term, who knows? I mean, there's a lot of free agents on the board on this team after this game. But for the time being, for this one night on Sunday, I think that they're really well equipped for this game and this matchup.
But let's jump into the props. As I mentioned, Sunday is a huge betting day. You'll see plenty of action from those guys who don't even usually bet. And now with the availability of FanDuel and DraftKings and all the easy access, you can find a line on almost anything. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through. I think we've each drafted 2 prop bets on our own. And what I think that maybe the best way to do this is let's start with Al. Al, give us one, and then we'll rotate. We'll go Al, we'll go Cris Style, we'll go Chris Guest, and then we'll go me. And we'll do, give us your pick, and then we can talk about it for 2 or 3 minutes and kind of bounce ideas off of what you say.
All right, that sounds good. And I'm actually happy you picked me first there, Adam, because I think my first pick goes right off of what Chris mentioned in his preview of the game. And I have written down in my notes that it's going to be a chess match. Like I have that exact same thing written down in the trenches. It's going to be a chess match. I've never in my life looked more forward to watching the trenches in a football game. Like I'm a little guy. I know you can't tell.
You ain't a trench guy. You ain't in a trench.
Yeah, you ain't built for that.
I'm not a muck guy. You know what I mean? I want clean routes, clean go routes. But so the prop bet that I chose, the first one is for Josh Sweat to record a sack. And I believe, Adam, if I'm not mistaken, what was that at? Plus 160? I can't remember what you had in the email.
It was plus money. I don't remember exactly what you said, but it was right around plus 130, plus 140. I thought.
Okay. So let's say plus 130. And the way I look at it is, Chris mentioned Hassan Reddick, which I think everybody knows about Hassan Reddick, but the Eagles have a lot of guys coming at you on that line. Josh Sweat.
Trust me, I know.
Yeah. Josh Sweat is our other starter on the edge. Kansas City, I look back at some of their games and they give up sacks almost exclusively to edge rushers. Yeah. Nothing gets up the middle. And that's because of Creed Humphrey. That's because of Tooney. That's because of Trey Smith. But when you look at the outside, now I know that probably Hassan Reddick is going to be the guy going up against Andrew Wiley, which is, Chris, I would say, would you agree with me? Is your weak point on that line?
Yeah, Orlando Brown ain't too far away, but Andrew Wiley is our weakness. That's why hopefully Andy Reid doesn't do what Kyle Shanahan did and have a tight end block Hassan Reddick. Hopefully get somebody out there chipping, helping Andrew Wiley.
Yeah, so I think that this is where that chess match comes into play to see how Andy Reid does deal with those edge rushers for Philadelphia. I'm thinking that Hassan Reddick is going to get his, but someone else in the Eagles is going to get in the backfield too, whether it's Sweat, Hargrave, Fletcher Cox, Brandon Graham. It's going to be somebody. Give me Josh Sweat. He's a guy that has 11 sacks this year. 9 out of the 19 games this season, he's had a sack, and 7 sacks in the last 10 games. Last 9 games, if you don't count the Saints game when he left in the first quarter. So my first prop bet on the board here is for Josh Sweat to record a sack.
All right. I like it. I think you hit the nail on the head on your comments. I don't have too much to add. Chris, anything you want to?
What was the odds on that, Al?
Let me double check it now, like live. But I think it was plus 130 or plus 140 when I initially found it on FanDuel.
Okay. Yeah,
So
if I remember, he was like the best odds of the next set of guys, like after Reddick, because Reddick I think was like -1 something.
So here's a question, because I've never bet the sack market. If you get a half a sack, does that count?
Nah,
it's got to be a full sack.
Full sack.
Did they have any props on total team sacks?
They do. They do. They have everything right now, man. Like if I try to find that right now, it's going to take me a second.
No, I was going to say, because I know the reason I'm asking is I know certain sites have different bets and stuff like that, different props. So I didn't know if
you could find anything.
So Sweat's plus 136 right now. Reddick is -164.
Okay.
So just for the money, you know what I mean? I don't want to lay 160 with 100. So
yeah. All right, so that's your first one. Let's go to Chris Sweat. Chris, what do you have?
Chris Sweat. Style.
Chris Style, my bad.
You good, man.
Sorry, Chris.
So I'm gonna go with MVS scores a touchdown. He's scored a touchdown in the past 2 playoff games. He scored one against Jacksonville, which he really didn't do much. But last game, because our receivers was dropping like flies, he stepped up big, had 116 yards and a touchdown. So I think that he's gonna build that momentum and bring it to the Super Bowl. And I think he's gonna record a touchdown. That's at plus 210. So
okay. Yeah, I'm actually seeing it up to plus 240 now. So I thought that was good value. I actually looked at that as well. Give us a little scoop, I guess, on the passing game. Like, is the health of the receivers? Tony's going to play, it looks like.
Tony Juju's gonna play. They just put Miko. He's on. They put him on IR. He's done. That hit. He before coming into the game, he had a pelvis injury, and that hit he suffered. I'm surprised he even caught that football because he took a big hit in that game. And so once he got that hit and he was off the field, I knew he was done because it was rough for him even coming to play the AFC Championship game. So I knew once he got hit, it was over for him. So, but Kadarius Toney is huge. We need him because he's the other speed element that we have on this team. Yeah, we need that, especially with the jet sweeps and stuff like that Andy likes to do. He's very instrumental in that. So, we definitely need Kadarius Toney out there. So,
I'm glad you mentioned about Hardman. I was going to ask you about that actually, with him being deactivated and Edwards-Helaire being put back on the active roster.
No spoilers. I got some stuff on that.
Okay, so I'll wait on that then.
Yeah.
I was going to ask how he felt as far as like what the feel for the Chiefs fan base is at this point with Edwards-Helaire, because he's kind of been up and down, more so down than up.
I have something on one of my. So why don't I go next? Since
I was going to say right into that then. All right.
So Chris has MVS scoring a touchdown at plus 240. I'm going to go Jerick McKinnon under 20.5 rushing yards. And I think if you look 4 of his last 5 games, he's actually in single digits for yards rushing. It seems as though they've, at the end of the regular season, he kind of saw an uptick in his usage. He seemed to be scoring a touchdown almost every week. But the last few playoff games, it seems to be more Pacheco based. And especially as far as just flat out running the football. McKinnon's really only getting, 4 or 5 carries per game. And what I was going to mention is, I don't know if Edwards-Helaire sees the field, but even if he takes 2 carries away from Jerick McKinnon, again, that's a big deal when Jerick McKinnon's only getting 4 or 5 to start. So again, McKinnon may only see 2 or 3, maybe 4 rushes in the entire game. So I'm going to take him under 20.5. My only concern is I think one of the areas that Andy may try and attack the Eagles is with screen passes to kind of alleviate some of the pass rush.
Right.
And if that's the case, McKinnon may be on the field more, but I'm not sure if he's going to get enough workload to get to that 21 rushing yards. So I'm going to go McKinnon under 20.5 rush yards.
Actually, a good bet because we use him more in the passing game, and he's more of he gets more playing time than Pacheco does because Pacheco is still a liability in pass protection. Jerick McKinnon is by far our best pass protector when it comes to running back. So he's going to be on the field more, but like you said, he's more of a pass catcher, getting the ball out the backfield than he is running between the tackles. So that's actually a good bet.
Did you want to touch on? Do they expect Edwards-Helaire to play at all?
Yeah, no. I don't. I think he's just a body. If Pacheco or Lord forbid McKinnon, one of those two go down, then they'll put Clyde in there because he knows the playbook. He knows where he needs to be. So they'll probably put him out there only if that. But I don't see Clyde playing that many snaps.
Chris, I'm a big believer in Pacheco. I drafted him in my dynasty league this year, and he ended up. Honestly, I wasn't really sure when I did it. It was one of those late picks, but being in the dynasty league, you have those guys going forward for various seasons. So, is that in for the future state? How do you guys feel about Pacheco and his chances to be not only thrive in this game, but also just in general going forward for you guys?
We love Pacheco. He runs hard. Like he's always. We saw it in preseason. We saw it in training camp. That was the first thing that caught everybody's eye. Was like this kid. He's running angry. Like he runs like this is his last game. Like even when he gets up, he's running back to the huddle. So, the only thing that we want him to work on, and he still needs work on, is his vision. It's like he runs right into the line when he doesn't need to. Like there's a hole wide open on the left or the right, and he'll just run straight into the line. Even in that Jacksonville game, on that 40-yard rush, he ran right into the line. It was just that he was able to pop back out, go left, and take it all the way to 40 yards. So that's one thing he needs to work on, and I think that has to do with when he was playing at Rutgers, he played with a bad offensive line.
Yeah.
So it was just, but for the future, we're excited for Pacheco.
All right, Chris, you justified your fantasy football pick. You happy? Can we get back to the props?
Hey, I got a resource right here. I gotta use it, man. You know what I mean? This offseason, ain't no offseason in Dynasty League, so the auction wire cuts, everything is still live. So,
So Chris, you're up. Chris, yes.
So, Al, you talked about Josh Sweat, and for folks that are listening and watching, as far as my bets are concerned, you're probably going to be sweating because I believe in them. However, they could be a little bit dicey towards the end as far as hit or miss. So, I'm actually going to take Travis Kelce under 79.5 receiving yards. And here is why, if I can pull my notes up real quick.
Cris Style has left the chat.
I'm good.
The Eagles were really good this year against the tight ends, which they've been actually the last couple of years. They ranked 9th in the league this year in fewest receptions led to tight ends, around just over 4 a game. 10th in yards led to tight ends, around 40 a game. And they finished 4th in the league in DVOA against tight ends this season. Kaiser White was signed here this offseason. Specifically, that was like the number one objective they had for him was his expertise in guarding the tight ends. He did a good job for that purpose. I'd say for 85% of the season. He leaked a little bit of oil at the end, but then picked it back up in the playoffs. TJ Edwards also has been really solid, not just against the run, but also in coverage with tight ends as well. The best performance this year against the Eagles defense from the tight end position was Pat Freiermuth on the Steelers, had 4 catches for 57 yards. Juwan Johnson on the Saints had 5 catches, 62 yards. And Okonkwo, the Titans had 4 catches for 68 yards. So 2 of those 3, Freiermuth being the and my Penn State brother over there. Am I saying that right? Freiermuth? Freiermuth.
Yeah.
He being a little bit of the exception, but the other 2, Okonkwo and Johnson, they're not really guys that you're game planning for, so they still got solid numbers. The Eagles are going to be game planning against Travis Kelce. And I think that he is there. I know he's their bona fide number 1 receiving weapon at this point with their offense. So I think that the game plan, zeroing in on him, whether they're going to bracket him or whatever they're going to do. Also, we mentioned about the trenches. He may be called for a lot more in this game to help with the block as well in the line of scrimmage. We'll see. Depends on the game script as far as if they're trailing a lot or if they're up a lot, how they're going to play that. But I feel like every other game this year against the Eagles defense from an individual perspective, from a tight end, the yardage was very minimal. So obviously Kelce is a franchise guy. He's 33, but he's still a franchise guy, hasn't lost a beat. I am very nervous about playing Travis Kelce, but I feel like I trust the Eagles defense. I trust the numbers, and therefore you want to sweat, but earn your money. Take Travis Kelce's under 79.5. He might get 78, but you'll still be in the black. You'll still
into the win.
So
You couldn't find something you were a little more confident in. You're like 78. You might get it.
like I said, I'm confident in it.
Yeah.
It's just that, being a star player, you always are, nervous about when you take unders.
Right.
So,
The reasoning is fair. Kelsey's just a different beast compared to any other tight end. I don't know if you can compare it, but they're going to have to control him if they want to win the game.
Listen, if you're asking me if I'm putting my money on that, bet it or forget it, I'm going to forget it.
You're going to be a pile of sweat, man.
I'll say this as far as Travis Kelce, Blake Bell, who's more of our blocking tight end, I think they'll use him more as the chipper, which will allow Travis Kelce to split out wide more as a wide receiver, because I know that's what they like to do with him. They like to send him in motion, kind of reading what defenses are doing. So you'll probably see him split out more wide as a wide out. So trying to get him on one-on-ones more so he won't be double teamed as much. But yeah, as far as chipping goes, Blake Bell will probably be more of our, blocking tight end to help Wiley out, to keep Hassan Reddick off of Mahomes. So
And guess you didn't even mention, if anybody knows Travis's weaknesses, somebody had to say it. It's Jason.
Yeah.
Well,
true.
yeah, absolutely. And so I think that maybe goes into a game plan a little bit. Who knows Travis better than his brother, who's known him for however, what, 33 years. So
Well,
34,
here's
33 years.
I say that here's the weakness of Travis Kelce. You got to be physical at the line with him. You cannot let him get off the line. You let him get off the line, he's going to get you. But if you physical with him, and it depends on how the refs call it too, because a lot of times when the refs call, they let him play. You know what I'm saying? If they let him play, then Travis has a hard time when guys are throwing him down on the ground and being a little bit more physical. He gets frustrated with that type of stuff,
Right.
and it kind of takes him out of his game. So that's what the New England Patriots used to do to us all the time.
Yeah,
They used to jam him up at the line, throw him around, hit him. You know what I'm saying? Make it hard for him to get those yards. So that's one of his weaknesses, is that he doesn't like getting physical. Like, he don't like guys roughing him up.
I don't want to change sports, but we have a cent on our basketball team who's kind of in that same boat.
Yeah.
But
guess what you say that was 78.5?
I think it was 79
and a half.
Okay, because he averaged 78.7 yards a game this year. So Vegas got it tight. They're not playing any
and I know I saw that, and that's what I'm saying. So like for them to have that line at that level, that tells me something.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is lower than you would think. I would think it would be higher. So I hear you. All right, let's go to Al for your second one.
Well, speaking of a line that's a little lower than you would think, I'm a big, and you guys know this, Chris and Adam, you know this. I'm a big line reader when it comes to making bets. When Vegas is kind of saying to do something, I go the other way. I run the other way because it just seems too easy. And anytime I've learned as a bettor, anytime something seems too easy, it's because it is, and it's not. The opposite happens. So a line that I got my eye on, and it's fishy to me, but I'm going to tell you to take what's easy. Kenny Gainwell, his over-under in rushing yards is set at 18.5, 18 and a half rushing yards. And this is a guy that's gone over that number 9 games this season, including obviously his last 3. Some of that is a little skewed, right? Honestly, because we play the Giants in a game at the end of the season, week 18. That doesn't mean much to the Giants. And then we get 2 games in the playoffs where we jump out to such large leads that we're able to put Miles Sanders and give him a little bit of a rest. But with that said, I looked at the stats in the last 2 weeks. And in the last 2 weeks, Kenny Gainwell had 112 and 48 yards in those playoff games. And in both of those games, he went over the number in the first half. So he went over the 18 and a half in the first half when the games were still somewhat competitive. So the Eagles have been, for whatever reason, they've been calling plays for this kid, and they've been giving him the rock more so lately than they were in the beginning of the season. I mean, 26 carries the last 2 weeks. So for me, Kenny Gainwell over 18 and a half. He might bust one for 14, 15 yards and then, only have that 4 or 5 yards to go. And if somehow it turns into a game where maybe the Eagles are up 14 in the 4th and they're running out clock, then it's basically, I mean, that's easy money at that point because Kenny Gainwell is going to be in the game running the ball from there. So I'll bite, I'll bite and I'll take the over on the rushing yards there.
I saw a couple of different Twitter handles tweeting out the Gainwell rushing yards today. So there's a lot of people, I think, on that over 18 and a half. So we'll see. He's definitely earned more playing time the way he's played the last few weeks. But again, when it comes to the Super Bowl, and like you said, those games were blowouts. And when it's a closer game, it may be the Miles show. But if you're following the trends and the way that they've been running the football, I like the bet.
Yeah, Gainwell's he's been lights out the last few weeks, and he's only, 18 and a half. That's a player like him, he can get that in one carry. He can get a 20-yard gain and then have 3 for 4 the rest of the game, but you're still set. You hit on that. So I think that they're maybe, I don't know, do you think that they're trying to showcase him a little bit?
Now's not the time. Now you ain't trying to showcase, but I hear what you're saying.
Like as far as Miles being a free agent, like kind of saying like, hey man, we got a guy too that we can just give the ball to not miss a beat.
I just think he's fresh. He's fresh and does what they need him to do. I mean, I don't know. I don't think they're overthinking it. Now, Chris, who's your, because Kenny Gainwell is probably a guy that I don't know if Kansas City fans know a lot of. You know what I mean? Like,
we know who he is. We know.
All right. Is there a guy like that though that might be a little under the radar for the Chiefs?
Under the radar. No. I mean, maybe Sky Moore, but we really haven't used Sky Moore like that.
Another dynasty pick I got.
Yeah, like we haven't, I mean, you guys know how Andy Reid is with rookie receivers. Like he really doesn't play them as much because he wants them that the playbook is like this big, so he's got to learn like a million plays. So I mean, he may be, but probably Kadarius Toney would probably be the only, because we still like we see the playmaking, but he hasn't like put it on full display. So it would have to be Kadarius Toney.
Only thing I would say about Tony that might concern me as a Chiefs fan is he is one player that the Eagles have plenty of intel on, based on the fact that he did come from the division.
Yeah.
So they do have plenty of intel. Now, he hasn't performed as well as he has with Kansas City with the Giants when he was up there, but still, nonetheless, a lot of intel I think has been put into him. This being a division opponent for a little bit. So we'll see how that plays out as far as how they guard him in this matchup. But
my major concern with Tony is can he stay healthy?
Yeah, he's no, but he's dangerous though. He's really dangerous,
especially with the football. Like he's tough when he has the football.
Yeah, he's so elusive. It's just like wow. So yeah, I would just say him. He would probably be the one. So
I mean, between Tony and Sky Moore for the future, I mean, there's two candidates that can be the next Tyreek Hill.
Playmakers.
Yeah, but Scott more so because I think he has the health factor.
Agreed.
Like I said, like Kadarius Toney, we can count on him for 11 games, maybe. So until he can show us he can stay healthy for a long, extensive time, that's always going to be a concern. That's why I want my Chiefs to be in the receiver market next year and get a guy because he can't be your number one wide receiver if he can't stay healthy. So you can't depend on that.
Right. And who knows? I mean, Kelsey's obviously, still elite, but the wheels are going to fall off at some point.
Yeah. We never know when that's gonna. You can't depend on that year in and year out.
Yeah.
You
imagine how much scarier this game is for Eagles fans if they still had Tyreek Hill on that damn team.
I think about it ever since the matchup came out. I'm like that. Because we played last year, and obviously we were both teams were really different. But I saw like a stat or a tweet that the O-line that the Eagles had in that game. I think Driscoll was starting, Herbert was starting, so it was a whole different situation in the trenches for us. And obviously on the D-line was all different, but
I will say this about the the Tyreek Hill situation. Yes. Don't get it twisted. I wish we had Tyreek Hill on this team. I wish he would have, signed the deal that we initially gave him so he could be on this team. But I will say that losing Tyreek Hill helped the development of Patrick Mahomes. He sees the whole field more. He goes through his progressions more. And, you can't blame him if you line up and you look over to your left and you see Tyreek Hill lined up one-on-one. You're gonna audible and say I'm going to Tyreek Hill. Bump going through my progressions. I'm going to him. So it helped him go through his progressions more. It actually helped to be a better quarterback. In the pocket more. So, like I said, I wish we had him, but I will say that he's stepped his game up as a quarterback. Losing Tyreek Hill. So
I'm not going to go into my preseason Chiefs prediction.
Dude,
I thought the loss of Tyreek Hill was going to affect them a lot more than it did. And Mahomes has really, really stepped up this year. I got to say that. But let's go to Chris for your second prop pick.
Yeah, you changed the subject on that one real quick. So.
At least I put it out there.
Hey, everybody felt like that.
So another.
No,
not you.
Chris.
Oh, my fault.
You take a back seat. We got a real guest.
My name is confusing everything. Both first and last name is confusing.
So this guy has gotten an interception in the past 2 playoff games. I think you guys are going to try to go after him because we have a lot of young guys in our secondary. But I don't think you guys are going to throw at L'Jarius Sneed or Trent McDuffie because those guys have been pretty locked down, as far as, being a corner. I think you guys are going to try to attack and see what Jalen Watson do. So I'm going to go with a Jalen Watson interception. It's at plus 600. He's been, like I said, he's had a pick. He had a pick last week against Joe Burrows and he had a pick against Trevor Lawrence. So I think he'll have the opportunities to do this.
Al, I see you scribbled. Are you writing these down?
I wasn't. I was looking up the odds, and I I don't see it on PAs on FanDuel in Pennsylvania for Jalen Watson to record one interception. But Chris, I can get him to record 2 interceptions at plus 20,000. How do you feel about that?
Not the 20, not the 2, just the one. Just the one.
So Chris, he's
not get greedy here.
He's your nickel. He's your nickel.
No, he's one of our outside. Usually, what we do is like L'Jarius Sneed. He's like the chess piece,
right?
As far as our play, like they use him on the inside, they use him on the outside, and lately they've been switching him and Trent McDuffie inside and out. So, like L'Jarius will use L'Jarius will probably be on AJ Brown most of the night. Trent will probably be on Devontae Smith. So that's how they're gonna do it.
I would say because I don't know how much action Quez Watkins is going to get. So whoever's guarding Quez might have a nice, easy night there. I don't know, but we'll see. McDuffie's been good though. I'm always leery of Pac-12 defensive players, and I believe he was Washington McDuffie. Yeah. So. Yeah. I was a little bit leery when he came out, as far as I know, we had some folks here who had mentioned him as far as a possibility with the Eagles. And I just was nervous about, like I said, any Pac-12 player, especially a Pac-12 corner. We already got bit by a Pac-12 corner a few years back with Sidney Jones. And that has always, since then, left us with a bad taste in our mouth about the Pac-12. But he's been good for you guys.
Well, usually Washington corner, other than Sidney Jones, but mostly Washington corners have been relatively good. Marcus Peters, came from Washington, right. He was really good. Yeah. Byron Murphy down in Arizona, he's actually a pretty good corner. So Washington corners, DBs have usually been good, but Sidney Jones, he was kind of a letdown. But but yeah.
But that's the interception bet at plus 600 is actually a good transition to my second one. So I am going to go Devontae Smith anytime touchdown at plus 160. Chris mentioned it. The Chiefs are a little bit younger on the outside, although they've been pretty good. I think there's going to be a lot of attention put on A.J. Brown. But if you've watched the Eagles over the last 6 weeks, A.J.'s still the number 1, but Devontae has turned into the 1A. Devontae has 5 touchdowns in his last 8 games. And outside of last week when the Eagles just ran the hell out of the football because San Fran obviously couldn't do anything, Devontae's caught 5 or more passes in 8. It looks like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of the last 8. And the only one he missed was the San Fran game last week. So he's getting value. He's at plus 160 to score a touchdown. Again, with some of the youth that's on the outside and the attention that's going to be paid to AJ, I like Devontae's chances of getting in the end zone, and I'll take it at plus 160 on Sunday.
So what is L'Jarius Sneed? Is he going to play?
It's trending upward for him to play. He did the walk. He was in the walkthroughs. He passed the first part of the protocol, the concussion protocol. So it's looking like all signs is he's going to play.
Okay. All right. Well, listen, you can get Devontae Smith to score the first touchdown of the game at 11-1. Adam.
Really?
That's great value if you want to play that. I'm going to play the anytime touchdown.
Right, and Chris's whistle over there.
Yeah. He's thinking about it.
Look at him.
Listen, we take no responsibility if we go 0 for 8 today, guys.
No, not at all.
For entertainment purposes.
You should have had that disclaimer too. Bet at your own risk. I don't want to have any tweets or anything like that coming at us.
These are value plays.
Yeah.
All right, Guess, why don't you cap it off with the last one?
So I tried to pick one for each team. So I had one for the Chiefs as far as Kelsey's concerned with the under. This one also, listen, like I said, I believe in it, but I understand if you're a little bit, nervous about taking it. Jalen Hurts under 49.5 rushing yards. We already know the situation with Hurts' injury with his shoulder. He hasn't looked the same running the ball for the most part since he's come back. And the Kansas City defense has only given up more than that number, that 49.5 number, twice to a quarterback this year. Strangely enough, one was Jarrett Stidham. Stidham is like randomly showing up on these teams, like with these games with the 49ers, now with the Chiefs. Like this dude put in a lot of tape with the little bit that he played. But he gave the Chiefs 50 yards on 7 carries. And then Russell Wilson at 57 yards on 4 carries. Obviously, Hurts is going to be the best running threat that the Chiefs have faced. I would say, Chris, if you would agree with that.
Yeah, I do.
Throughout this year so far. But the Chiefs have a fast, speedy defense, especially their secondary, stuff like that. Their linebackers, they can get all over the field. So I'm going to give them benefit of the doubt. This is one I would love to be wrong on, because if Hurts is running all over the field, this probably means the Eagles are in good shape. But again, just trusting the numbers, and the speed of the Chiefs defense this year, I would take the under for 49.5 rushing yards for Jalen Hurts.
You're just betting against the stars, huh?
I like it.
I'm just seeing what I'm liking what I'm seeing with some of these bets. Man. Now that's not to say that the running backs, the running game won't be able to get started. That could be still a different conversation. But as far as Hurts himself is concerned, the Chiefs just haven't given up a lot of yards on the ground to quarterbacks.
Do we know? And I know nobody's gonna know. So what did Josh Allen run for when they played against?
I had it up. I think it was like 30. I'm going off memory, but I'm going to pull it up while I'm talking. I think it was like 32 yards on a handful of carries here. I think I have it.
He didn't run until like that last drive. He
Gotcha.
didn't do a lot of running.
Yeah.
That's what scares me about under bets like that for props, because you could be winning that bet for 58 minutes, and then all it takes is that one.
Nobody likes betting the under, but so they hit.
Yeah, I was right. Josh had 12 carries, 32 yards.
So they contained them. They did a good job.
So he tried. He had 12 carries, but they held him in check. So
yeah. All right, so I'll run it down for you guys again. All 8 picks. I've got Al with Josh Sweat recording a sack around plus 130, 135. Kenneth Gainwell over 18.5 rushing yards. I've got Cris Style with Marquez Valdez-Scantling, a touchdown at plus 240, and Jalen Watson, the long shot to record an interception at plus 600. For Chris Guest, I have Travis Kelce under 79.5 and Jalen Hurts under 49.5 rushing yards. And for myself, I have Jerick McKinnon under 20.5 rushing yards and Devontae Smith score touchdown at plus 160. That was all we have for tonight. Any final words before we close out our Super Bowl segments for the night?
Can we get? Did anybody have an MVP pick outside of the quarterbacks?
I'm glad you actually said that. So one that I was thinking about was Hassan Reddick.
Everyone's on that.
Yeah,
everyone's
Hassan
on that
Reddick.
now.
And also, not that it's going to happen. It's probably one in who knows, but if it's somehow a defensive game and a team wins, like, I don't know, 20-14 or 18-12, whatever, but the value for the kickers, if they just share all if they're all the offense, or if somebody makes like a 60-yarder to win the game as time expires, they're both plus 24,000.
Yeah, there's a reason for that. There's a
plus
reason
24. You want to put $100 on a kicker to get MVP.
Yeah.
Come on, I'd rather take Watson to get 2 picks.
No, but all jokes aside, somebody on the D line for Philly for me would be where I would go with that non.
Yeah. So since I'm taking Sweat to record a sack, Sweat to win MVP is 150 to 1. So I might as well take that.
To me, the value, and Chris, don't be offended by this, is, I mean, if the Chiefs win, Travis Kelce at 16 to 1 is good value. I mean, if he has one of these games where he goes 10 for 120 and 2, but then it's probably Mahomes that wins in that case. But I like 16 to 1 if I'm going to go outside the quarterbacks.
If we're going outside the quarterbacks for the Chiefs and the defense has a good outing, I don't know the odds, but if we're picking MVPs, I would say Chris Jones.
I have Chris Jones 50 to 1. I pulled it up now.
I was going to say that's one I was thinking about too.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Chris Jones would be the guy.
So, and then to our listeners out there, you got to make sure that you follow both of our accounts on Twitter. The Arrowhead Chief Podcast is at AH Chief Podcast. And then, we're at 3K Podcast. And you got to make sure you follow us because we have a little friendly bet here, Chris. I don't know if the other guys know about this.
Yeah. Well, I said, if we lose, we'll put y'all logo on the back of our,
okay,
thing. put y'all logo up there, and if we win, then you put our logo up there. So
Yeah, so we'll have
That
it up
sounds
there
good.
for a week.
Friends
week,
helping
yeah.
friends.
Yeah, that sounds like a fair
I like
trade.
it. But Chris, anything else you wanted to add about your podcast to our listeners if they wanted to follow you besides the Twitter handle?
Yeah, you can follow us on all social media at the AH Chief Podcast. We're on Instagram, we're on Facebook, we're on TikTok. So we're on all the social media platforms. And yeah, follow us. We're on all streaming platforms as far as podcasts, Spotify, Anchor, Stitcher, Breaker, Apple, Google, all of that. So you can follow us on all those.
So
we'll follow you back. You know, we ain't like Hollywood fans. We ain't trying to little out, man. We too big to follow y'all. No, we'll follow you guys back, and you can interact with us, talk to us. Just talk to us nice. Don't come at us crazy.
So for our Eagles fans, I'll be honest with you, Chris. I don't think if the Chiefs win the Super Bowl, a lot of people are going to want to listen to what you have to say this week. But if the Eagles win, they may check you out to hear what the misery sounds like.
Yeah, they're gonna hit up my mentions and be in the comment section saying "Fly Eagles fly." But hey, if you guys win, you deserve it.
Listen, much respect. We were talking off the air beforehand. This is a Super Bowl of two teams that seem to really, really respect each other. And listen, we just appreciate you coming on and shooting the shit with us. And I'd love to do more stuff with you guys in the future. Like I know I think before the season we usually do like divisional previews. I think when we do the AFC West next year, we definitely get you on and you can tell me not to pick the Chiefs to miss the playoffs again.
Yeah, most definitely.
All right.
No, I appreciate it.
Thank you all. Stay tuned. We'll be back with segment 3. We're going to switch gears a little bit. We're going to go NBA. We're going to talk Kyrie Irving and the Brooklyn Nets. We'll be right back.